You challenge Makoa?
Hey, what's up guys? I'm back. This time I'm gonna be playing Makoa. I had mentioned in an earlier video that Makoa is one of my favorite champions. He's also one of the strongest champions in the meta right now. In fact, he's probably the strongest champion in the meta right now. And this is because of a number of reasons. He's my favorite champion because he's the strongest champion right now. He's also really fun to play, which helps a lot. Now normally I don't post videos of complete stomps on either side, whether it's our team or the other team. For this video, however, I decided to make an exception. I just wanted to showcase the power of Makoa, and this video really brings that out. Keep in mind though, this game happened in OB67, which is before the big balance changes. And from OB68 onwards, Makoa is going to be getting the nerf hammer, and he's probably still going to be top tier. In fact, I think he's still going to be the best champion in the game, but some of his power is definitely going to come down. So what makes Makoa so good, you may ask? Probably the biggest factor is his hook. That ability in this kind of game is very strong, especially when there's very little that can be done to counter it, especially once you've been hooked in. Once you've been hooked in, you're pretty much dead. There's nothing you can do to counter the effects of the hook after the fact. The most you can do is block it before he gets you. Now apart from the hook, his toolset is still very strong. He's got a very high DPS for attack, and with his talent, Leviathan, his HP is at 6100, which makes him very tanky. The other talents are often not picked as much because his base HP is only 4500, which makes sense given how strong he is in all other respects. But when you boost up that base HP of 4500 to 6100, coupled with all of his other really strong points like his DPS and his hook, he becomes really strong. Apart from his DPS and his hook, he's got a really great mobility ability and a nice shield. With the right loadout, you can become nearly invincible while at the same time do tremendous damage on the enemy team. Now the last thing that makes him truly remarkable is his ultimate. Coupled with Leviathan, it turns him into a rampaging beast with CC immunity that can't be stopped and has so much health, there's very little chance for you to burst him down. And since the ultimate applies on himself, there's not really any counter to it, unlike most other ultimates in the game, which can be countered to some extent. The most you can do against a Makoa ultimate is not be next to Makoa when he ultimates, like just be on the other side of the map, because even if you try and run away, he has his mobility ability and his hook to get to you. So his shell spin and his hook, even if you're near him when he ultimates, he's going to get you. Once he gets you, there's no getting out. So what can you do to counter Makoa? Let's look at the other team and see what they chose to counter Makoa. Shaolin is a good option. He's a high DPS champion that can burst down a Makoa. Nando is also a good choice to counter a Makoa because his shields can deflect his dredge anchor. Maldamba is also a solid pick against Makoa. Makoa has a really big hitbox, which makes hitting those stuns much easier. Another couple of good counters to Makoa is Moji and Drogos. Drogos because of his incredible DPS and his ultimate. Once Makoa ultimates, Drogos can still kill Makoa with his ultimate, which makes it pretty strong. Moji, same thing, though it is worth noting that if Makoa does go Leviathan, then the CC immunity he gets during his ultimate will work against Moji's ultimate. So starting off, I flank this right side. That's a direction I like to take with Makoa. The little area to your left over here between the statue of the jaguar and the point, that's a good place to hold as Makoa. Now if you notice my hook there, I hooked Inara and pulled her behind me so that she would be in line of sight of my teammates. Unfortunately over here, I used my shell spin to get in, and so I didn't have it anymore to get out, which is something you always want to be aware of. People like to play Makoa very aggressively, which means they often use their shell spin aggressively. But the drawback of this is that when you are playing that aggressively, you want to have the option to be able to shell spin out and into safety. So now would be a good time to hook, and I give a little hop to make sure my hook doesn't hit her warder's field, and I get her hook back. Once again, I do that thing where I turn back after I hook to make sure that the person I hook ends up behind me. Again, there, hook and move to the side. I always want to make sure that my hook gets the opponent in my team's line of sight. Now notice how I'm hugging this corner here on my left side. I know that the entire enemy team is on the other side of this wall, so I want to stay close to this corner so I can turn back at any time and be safe. Nice ulti from Ceres over there. So the drawback of moving away right after you hook is that you don't see if your hook pulls them in completely. Like if you notice there, I confirmed my hook on Inara, but as soon as I turned away, she didn't come in because she was blocked by her warder's field. So like I said earlier, Nando can deflect hooks with his shield, but there are still ways to get around his shield. If you hook him from behind his shield, you can still get him and remove his shield in fact. So notice here how I'm always using these corners. I always want to hug them so I can duck back in under the corner anytime I need to. Another advantage is if you hook them, you can hook them behind the corner with you, where they no longer have line of sight of their team and their team can't help them anymore. So we've got the point pretty much secured now, so I just want to stay in front of their spawn to make sure no one can ninja in behind and touch for whatever reason. A little bit of positive encouragement for the team there. Always remember that Paladins is a team game, and things that always help out is team encouragement and avoidance of team discouragement. As much as possible, I try not to get mad at my teammates and shout at them. It still happens on occasion though, but it's happening less and less as I've come to realize it doesn't really help anyone if you just get mad and start raging on your teammates. As far as item pickups go, my standard item pickups for Makoa are first max cauterize, and then my second item is usually morale boost.
NANI?!
Remember to always use your shell shield defensively. You are a frontline after all, so if you ever see an opportunity to use your shell shield to protect a teammate, which it can do really well because it's such a big shield, always use it. Inara tries to wall her off from the rest of my team, but I'm having none of that, and I hook her out of her wall and into the position of my teammates. So Makoa's projectiles can be a little tricky to get a hold of at first, but once you get a hang of it, it becomes really easy to land. For the fact that it's really predictable, it'll always make that same arc. So with enough practice, you'll always get it right. This is one of those situations where you can use your shield defensively. I saw that Inara was chasing Ceres and had her trapped in her cripple, so Ceres wouldn't be able to shadow walk out of that. So I positioned myself so that my shield would come up in between Ceres and the other team. That way it would keep Ceres safe until she was out of the cripple and she could shadow walk away. So something that I often ignore and I'm trying to do less is listening to the voice commands from your allies. So right there I heard that Ceres had called out, "Enemies behind us," which is why I turned around and went back. Often people just ignore these, probably because of the constant spam of VHS that happened. If you're playing against a Shaolin, always listen out for those planted sound effects. Because once he goes into that planted, he's a sitting duck for your hook, and you want to capitalize on that. Another victory, and the top play is from yours truly.
Double kill!
Oh, baby, a triple!
Man, they've really been working on those Paladin sound effects, huh? Checking out the scores, 11-1-15 with 58k damage. That is one more death than I should have had. It was a dumb death too, so quite mad at that. But apart from that, 11 kills, 15 assists with 58k damage in such a short game. Not bad. So I have been trying to get longer Makoa gameplay videos, but I haven't been able to for two reasons. Firstly, he's bad more often than not. Every game I go, he's bad. Secondly, they almost always end up one-sided like this game. Hey, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but Makoa's strong. What can I do? In any case, guys, as usual, I appreciate any feedback, so let me know. And I hope you all enjoyed. Bye!